If you knew me before, you wouldn't even look my way. If I had the nerve to speak, you wouldn't hear what I say. Time has come and gone so fast, we're not who we used to be.
And welcome back to Sullivan's Unheard Voices. I'm here with Debbie Meier, who writes under D.D. Meier. And one of the things that I'm always eager to talk to is somebody who's like been an author that's been around, but it's not really mainstream yet.
Yeah.
How did you get into writing to begin with?
Well, I've always had a knack for it. People at work would want me to write the emails if we had a group email to go out, Debbie, you write it, or somebody would want me to help them with letters of recommendation, for example, if we had seniors. So it's not that I did them for them, but I could help. Hey, they would have me read it and whatnot. And then about 20, 25 years ago, my mom started venturing into writing after she had retired. And she got the itch to write a story based on things she had heard from my grandmother over the years. And she wanted to figure out what it was that my grandmother was talking about when she was little, like 5, 6, 7 years old. And my mom looked up what age she would be at that time based on the year she was born, and then looked it up, and she thought it'd be about 1918. And so she put that in the computer, what happened in 1918. Google, and all of a sudden everything came up with the influenza that happened back then. So she realized my grandmother was talking these horrible things she was telling her about these people getting sick in their home in South Dakota was from the influenza. And my mom just took in all those stories, put them all together, wrote a book. She wanted it to be done before my grandmother had died. And she did. She was able to give my grandmother a copy. But that's how she got into writing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. My mom's a published writer now. Yeah. And, she wrote a few more books. I read them all because, of course, she's my mom. I read them all. And then I retired, 25 years later. I retired and I started reading more because I had more time to read. And I was reading a book that I went, every step along the way, you could tell what was going to happen next. Like, this writer didn't really camouflage, for lack of a better word, what she was writing and what was going to happen. Like, you just knew. And I thought, I could do better than that. And then I started thinking, and I had that one story from my own life. It was a true story that I started thinking about in my head. And it was the summer of 1981, the year after I graduated high school. My brother and I went to a lake resort in Southern Oregon, South Central Oregon, to be exact, Crescent Lake Lodge and Resort. Shout out to Crescent Lake Lodge and Resort. It's under different ownership now, but my brother and I worked there for a summer, and we had a great summer. But that last night we were there was like, oh my God, it was crazy. I'm not going to give it away because I want people to read my books. Yeah. But that first book there, the one right there, Summer of Dreams and a Nightmare, is exactly what it was like for us. It's not a long book. It's an easy read. I've been told, man, I read it in a day. Some of my friends that have read it. And so I wrote that book. I wrote it in fiction form, but in first person form. And I changed a lot about my background because at the time, this was a new venture for me to write. I didn't want to put all my personal stuff out there. So I changed all the names. I changed where I went to school. I changed all that stuff. But the story is absolutely 100% everything that happened that summer. I wish my brother, Dave, he worked with me that summer, and I kept saying, hey, what do you remember about that summer? I want to add it in the book. He never got back to me. So I was like, okay, I'm just doing it from my own perspective. But that story is about that summer. And I had fun writing it, and I wanted to make it like you just think you're reading a book about a nice little summer and then have it hit you, bam, and not see it coming. Because that experience I had reading that book I read, I'm not going to tell you who it was or anything, yeah. But I went, this is how I would want to do it. But, I've heard feedback for, like, one of my friends says, Debbie, when is it going to get to the good stuff? And I said, just be patient. It's not a hard read. Just read it. And I never did hear back from him, but I'm sure he did eventually get to the good stuff at the end. But the good stuff in that book is definitely at the end.
And then you transition from that to these other stories.
Right. Well, all of a sudden I got the itch. And there was a story I always wanted to write. I'm a huge baseball nut. I've studied the history of baseball just on my own, just for my own purposes. And I always wanted to write a book that was that incorporated some of the classical stories of baseball, but in a fiction form that brings in kind of suspense and intrigue. And that next book there, the one, the first in the what's called the Dorman Family Adventures series, is called The Tingling Baseball. And it starts at Dodger Stadium and it ends with this, oh my God, what just happened to us? So it's kind of that way all the way through. I took notes from my first book, which was a true story, and then went total fiction, but actually sprinkled in a couple of very historical moments. I don't want to give away anything.
Yeah.
But it basically historical moments. There are three or four, I think there's 4 historical baseball moments in there that range from the 1890s, I want to say, 1880s, all the way through to 1988.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and I'm just being a baseball fan. It was fun to write a baseball book, and I'm a Dodger fan too, huge Dodger fan. And so of course they had to live in Los Angeles and be Dodger fans too. So
I can appreciate that so much. And something I always ask people, because like I'm a firm believer that the muse is like a living thing.
right.
And then when the muse hits you, you never know when or what's going to happen.
Exactly.
How do you handle it when the muse contacts you in terms of a book?
Well, it's so funny because I put I want to, if I could digress into a little bit about my writing style.
Yeah, please.
Because I started thinking about what we learned as kids growing up. You got to have an outline and follow your outline and build on the characters and all that stuff. I started that first book with an outline and it was out the door within 10 minutes. Because I realized for me personally, my writing style has to be, the book is going to flow with me. That I have to let things, it's almost as if you have an idea of what you want to write about. This is how I roll. My processes. I get an idea, and the next thing I do is start writing and let the idea build the story for me, so that instead of me chasing the story is chasing me. And I don't know, that's kind of your muse analogy is kind of that. I use that with my own personal experience. What I experienced writing all these books was I just sat down with my idea and started writing and let the thing of and what I told my mother once, and she agreed because she feels it's a similar thing. I feel like I'm reading the story as I'm writing it. Like, what should happen here? What should we do now? It's getting kind of boring. We got to put some action in here. That's how it goes. It just flows. But my original idea, my original story is always stays intact. For example, in the second in the Dorman series, it's called Encounter with a Beast. So it's a Dorman Family Adventures Encounter with a Beast. And I'm not going to lie, you can see my shirt. I'm heavily into Bigfoot and the phenomenon of Bigfoot and cryptids in general, but Bigfoot being from the Pacific Northwest. I mean, how could you not, right? And so I wanted to write a Bigfoot story, but I wanted it to be with the Dorman family in Southern California. So I built this whole idea that they ended up in Big Bear, California. And while they were there, they wanted to do a hiking trip. And well, guess what? They're out there camping and they have this experience that is just incredible. And they end up meeting people along the way in the same, here the dogs go. Along the way, they're meeting people that kind of encourage them and also help them. But it's also part of their family and what their family experiences. And now in the second book of that series, we've included extended family. They're sort of in the first book, but the extended family, the main character his brother, for example. And so in building that first book the way I did, the second book became, you're dealing with paranormal and phenomenon that were not in everyday life for most people. So having a brother who is a scientist is kind of cool. And I built that in the first book. And now in the second book, it comes into play too.
So each book sort of builds.
Well, and I wanted to, one of the things that was super important to me was not have you say it's a series and then say, oh, I got to read them in order. I think you can pick up any one of the 3 books in the series and you don't have to have read the one before it. It's helpful because especially in the first book, it gives a little background on who these people are, but you don't really need that. And I wanted to make sure, for me, I want people to read my books. I don't want them. In fact, I just saw a quote from Stephen King. It says, the one thing I fear the most is somebody reading my book and putting it down because they're bored. And so I went, oh man, that is so true. That's exactly what I feel too. And that's my first book probably is that way a little bit. But the next several books, the next 4 books aren't that way at all. And so where there's something always happening, like you're always going to have that. I hope snapping comes through on this microphone pretty well, but you're always going to have that what's around the next corner. That's how I kind of roll. And I just started a new project yesterday, a new writing project that is totally not a part of a series or anything. It's just something I've also always wanted to write about. I wanted to write about the Civil War. So I didn't have an idea and I started gathering stuff going, what do I want to write about? What do I want to write about with this? And then it hit me. And so now I sat down when it hit me yesterday. So I just turned the TV off and pulled my computer out, pulled up a Word document and just started going. And I'm feeling the same type of energy I have, the same type of thing you'll find in especially the last 4 books where what's around the next corner is always going to be there. And that's seeing that Stephen King quote today, which is random. I saw it on Facebook. Yeah. Right. So I go, oh, wow, that is so apropos to what I feel now with my writing process, what I want for my readers.
And I can appreciate that a lot because like sometimes like when you read a book and that seems to just go on and on. And speaking of Stephen King, like I'll just throw that book out there. It was the worst read ever. Yeah. I had to put it down after. It's like you got way better as time got on.
Yeah,
that one was just like, oh, that was painful.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've been curious about too, so like when you have this idea, you have sort of like the finished product. How do you get it from that product to actual hardbound book?
Good question. My first 4 books were with a company, and I told you when you first got here that I didn't like them. I'm not going to tell you who they were because I'm not big on bashing people in public. I will just tell you it inspired me to find another way. But they helped me with editing and formatting and all that stuff, and which was great. They helped build my website. They hooked me up with marketing from my first book. They did a lot of stuff, but I paid a lot of money for it. And I thought one of the things that drove me nuts with the book number 3 in the series here, The Dormant Family Adventures, and that one's just called The Queen Mary because it's set on the Queen Mary that's docked in Long Beach, California. I was like, when I'm done getting them with this book and I'm leaving them, I'm not going to deal with it. I'll figure something else out. And then I said, I'm going to try because Amazon has a thing called Kindle Direct Publishing.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm going to see, because if you go in there and you log into your account, and they also help me set up that account. So I can't say that they didn't help me, but there was a lot of stuff, typing errors, formatting errors. There's all that in these books that drives me nuts. Flow errors, like consistency errors that they should have caught while they were reading. And I trusted them too much and didn't do it myself. So, that cost a lot of money. I had to figure out a way. But the thing that caused me to say I'm done with them was with the 4th book here. They said, okay, Debbie, we need to get the fee so we can get this copyrighted for you. I said, okay, how much? He said, $500. And I go, why it wasn't that for the first, oh, we were giving you deals and we gave you deals on all the publishing, all this stuff to get it published, ahead of time. I said, sorry, if they're deals, they're deals. That doesn't mean you come back and gouge me in the next thing. So I went directly onto the U.S. Copyright Office website and said, how much does it cost? And I'm searching around. It costs $65 to copyright a book. So I said, and so that was for this book. I went, did the copyright, sent in the manuscript, everything, did it all. When it was done, you have to wait till it's done right before you publish. So I sent in the manuscript right before it was done, paid the $65, sent them all the information. Here, I paid for it myself. You guys don't, because they were telling me how cumbersome it was. And I'm going to tell you, it's not easy to go through all and answer all the questions they want you to answer, but it's not $500 worth.
Yeah.
So I went $65, did it, got that one. I said, thank you for your service. Please give me the ability to manipulate my own website, because I've also paid for that. I also paid GoDaddy or whatever to get the web address and all that stuff, all the domain. Sorry, got to use the right language. Yeah. To get all that stuff, I paid for all that. They set it up for me, but I paid for everything. And so I got that, and now I own it. I haven't done anything with it, but now it's mine.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to see what this Kindle Direct Publishing is all about. So I went on there and I said, I'm going to write a book, and that's this one here. This is called Operation Hill House and the Shamanic Trance Incident. If you read the book, you're going to understand what that all means, but because it has nothing to do with the story Hill House. And I want to make that very clear. It's military based. You know how military comes up with operation names, and just one I came up with for the book. So I've said, okay, I've got this thing. I went and got the copyright for it, and then went into Kindle Direct Publishing, went all the way through, waited to see what the big cost was going to be at the end. Like, okay, I got all the way through. How much is it going to cost? And they said, publish. And I go, wait a minute, it doesn't cost anything? Shocked the hell out of me. Yeah. I said, I spent all this money when if I just did some research and tried to figure it out myself, I could have saved thousands of dollars. So this final book, now, caveat on this book, the formatting sucks. The page numbering sucks, because I don't know Microsoft Word well enough to, even though I've gone through their tutorials, it still doesn't work. The number paging, the page numbering especially drives me nuts, but also the formatting. And then after I did it, I said, I got to the point where I was so tired, because once you submit it into them and then you go look at it and you go, no, that's why I got to delete it and start over and go back and fix. Yeah. And I got to the point where I had spent hours and hours trying to get it right, and I gave up. So if you look in here in this book, you'll see like chapters start in the middle of a page, and it like that, like things like that. Where the chapter starts way down the page. And so I was laying in bed one night and I go, I know what I need to do to fix that. So I'm already starting with this new project. I've got the dimensions correct. And instead of chapter 2 just going to the next page, I do a page break. I said that will heal everything, because if I'm still typing on the previous page, it'll go over to another page in front of that. And your formatting on that page you started the next chapter is going to stay consistent. So I go, why didn't I think of that when I was doing this? But when you're stressed out, you just don't think of things like that. If I could figure the page numbering out, I'll have it all down. And I might just go on YouTube and do a tutorial and have them show me exactly, because I'm visual kinesthetic. I've got to do it and see it. If you try to if I'm reading what you're telling me to do, I'm going to do exactly what you tell me. If it doesn't work out like I like, which is the way it's working with this, I'm going to be angry.
Couple of thoughts. One is when you're doing the design piece and like the pages and
formatting
stuff, it's a different part of the brain.
Yeah.
And so when you have people who are really talented writers, you rely on a different part of the brain to write. And so code switching from writing to designing is a pain in the rear end.
Yeah.
And then I also went through that publishing experience, because I wrote a book a long time ago through the Kindle publishing. And you're absolutely right. like if you don't know what you're doing, it was just
It's super frustrating, but I did it and I got it out and it's readable. And the one thing I can tell you about this book is there's not going to be, at least I went through it. I read it 3 or 4 times and fixed all the errors, did all the editing software that Microsoft Word has, did it all and found everything, got it to 100%. To where it's 100%, right? I go, okay. And then you go through and you see the things they go, no, ignore, because you're a writer. You don't want it to be perfect. You're not trying to write a I don't know, a report or something like that where you have to have everything perfect. You're writing like the current project I'm working on. I have a problem with, Microsoft Word saying this is an error word. No, that's how I want it. That's how he would have spoken at that point in time. That's how kids speak, right? So, instead of want to, I say wanna, and it doesn't want me to say wanna. It says, no, that doesn't sound right. It's so frustrating, but I'll figure that out as I get there. With this next project, I know now how to make sure and I'm going along the way with the formatting, making sure it's clean.
Yeah.
Things like that.
And then the other thought that I have is what you were telling me is very similar to my experience in the podcast realms. Once you start, you have all of these people who promise, oh, we can do this, we can do this. Everybody wants money up front.
Right.
And it's like, how do you trust this entity?
What's the guarantee?
Person? Right.
There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee.
I promise you, there's no guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can spend $300 on this little thing. This one of the little things I did was getting my books in front of readers. This one gal, she's built a business for saying, I'll get your book and a description of it on my Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, everything, right? And I go, well, this sounds good, and the price is okay. It's like, for all four, like you can do just 2, like just Facebook and Instagram, or you can do all 4 of the things that she has. I paid for the full package, right?
Yeah.
And she sent them to me, and they were all great. And she sent them out, and I go, okay, that's just that one time you're gonna send them out. And she did go through and get a synopsis of each book that she put on there, which is great. But I could have done that myself. I paid you to do something I can't do. And that was a hard fill. There's a lot of learning that I've gone through in this whole process. One thing that I wanted to tell you about the right brain, left brain thing, I got to throw this back at you now. I've always said I'm a left brain person because I can do technical things, technical this, technical that. I can do it all. And when I do things like writing or any kind of arty kind of things, I always say I'm a left brain person, but let my right brain come out to play every once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, I let it play hard last year when I wrote all these books last year, 2024 into 2025. So it started maybe March last year, started writing that first book. And then by March this year, I had 5 books. So I really let my right brain come out to play last year. And it's taken me a while to get back into it. But what it's taken me a while is come up with a story idea.
Yeah.
The reason why this was so easy is because I had great story ideas already in my brain. And that's 90% of the battle.
100%. and the other thing too that I'm learning along the way, especially in terms of like when you have something creative like this, it's really kind of hard to enter the market as an independent person. And one of the things that I find frustrating, especially now, is that if you don't know somebody wealthy and powerful, good luck getting in.
Exactly.
And I remember distinctly a time where it didn't matter if you had good stuff. You had a pathway to get published. That's kind of gone now. Yeah.
I think the advent of self-publishing has really watered down what really good writing is. I think a lot of people these days are self-publishing, number one, because it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier. Well, I shouldn't say cheaper. It's cheaper than having to figure out a way to get your book in front of a publisher, for example. My hope was like, I'll self-publish John Grisham did that.
Yeah.
He self-published his first book, sold him out of the back of his car. I said, I want to be John Grisham and say, I want to get my books in front of as many people as possible so that and maybe somebody will see it and go, oh, this is good. And we need to get this person with a publisher. It hasn't happened, but that's, like I said, John Grisham self-published in a time when not a lot of people were doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm starting my writing adventure. I don't want to call it a career because it's not really. My writing adventure where everybody is doing self-publishing.
Yeah.
99% of writers out there are probably, and that's just a guess. Don't hold me to that. That's just a guess. Just most of people are self-publishing with the hopes of becoming a John Grisham down the road.
Yeah, and one of the things that I find fascinating is that Amazon does all of this stuff to help people publish, but yet it's kind of exploitive in a way. And the reason I say that is because they allow you to be on their platform for free.
Right.
So that they can advertise that they have all of this content, but they will not do anything for you to help you actually sell, market, or get your book in front of people. Which
you think would be helpful for them because they take a big chunk. When I sell a book on Amazon at $12.99, I may see a couple dollars out of it.
Yeah.
If I sell my book by myself, which costs me a couple dollars to buy my author copies, I sell them for $10, cheaper than what you can get. And I'll autograph them for you. For $10. It's cheaper than what you can get on Amazon. You would think Amazon, with the amount of cash they're taking from each sale, that they would say, we want to make more money on these, so let's help them. Because if they're taking that much money, they could spend pennies and get advertising and push content out for people. And they could do it randomly. They don't have to do everybody because they do it so much. But they could say, today, spin the wheel. This is the author we're going to out there. And if they did that, a lot more authors could get a lot more of their books out in front of people. But I have to rely on podcasts.
Yeah. And the other thing, though, the flip side of that is I don't see Amazon ever doing that.
No, they won't.
They don't care.
No, no.
They have demonstrated over and over and over again that they don't care about their clients, they don't care about their customers,
right.
They don't care about anything except for how they make more money.
Yeah, well, and their shareholders, which I have to say, I am an Amazon shareholder. I don't have a lot, little. I have maybe a share and a half, but still, it's a good share to have. Actually, I probably have more than that now. I probably have 6 shares. Because they did split. I forgot they split. Yeah. But, I went with just a little over 1 share and then they split 3 for 1 or 2 for, I can't remember what it was. But I ended up with more shares, and it's doing well, yay, but it's nickels compared to what they're making on the same, shares.
It's interesting how as our capitalist society has grown, we've sort of steered away from this model of caring about our customers and clients to just caring about their shareholders.
Yeah.
And I think that's getting in the way of the ability for us to sort of grow and connect as a country.
I agree 100%. There is one thing that I think is frustrating with where we are in capitalism right now. And I'm speaking as someone who is now considered an artist because I've written. You've written a book too. You're an artist. You're a podcaster. You're an artist. Artistic content is far less valued. And we can see that even the way that government is working by cutting things like PBS or the arts. I personally, it's a shame because I think we need to embrace all aspects, not just one. We just can't be about money. We can't just all be about money because money is power. That's what they really want is power. It can't just be about money and power. It's got to be about people. And until we get to that point again, I'm hopeful that we can. We are going to be, it's going to be like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just going to have to it may not happen in my lifetime. I'm getting old. Yeah. So it may not happen in my lifetime and that's okay. But I hope for the sake of being an educator for all the kids that I helped get through school, for their kids and beyond, I have to have hope, and that's what I do. I rely on my hope.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that I'm sort of perplexed by about the whole thing is and I heard a comedian, and I won't call his name out, but he was saying the other day, it's like, it's very interesting to me that you have CEOs that'll take a $1.5 million bonus and be happy, while 40% of their employees are on public assistance and can't afford rent and food.
Right.
So it's like you're happily accepting $1.5 million when you can give that money back to your people that are working for you to actually get a life-sustaining career.
But they can't maintain their power if they give people means. So it is a vicious cycle. Yeah. Are you familiar with James Tallarico?
No.
Oh man, you got to check him out.
Okay.
He's a former middle school teacher. He is a current Democratic legislator in the Texas state legislature. And I heard him in a forum just recently, a couple of days ago. I look at TikTok every night before I go to bed, and I'll scan. I've subscribed to his page on TikTok, and he said, "We are angry at the wrong 1%." Have you heard about this?
No.
He says we're angry about the wrong 1%. Says billionaires are 1% of the population. Immigrants are 1% of the population. He started ticking off all the other, trans are 1% of the population. You guys are angry with the wrong 1% because they're using the culture wars to divide us over these 1% little things down here. And they're watching from up there while we fight.
Yeah.
That's a nutshell version of what he's talking about. So we are really upset with the wrong 1%. And I went, oh my God, this guy's brilliant. But he also, the other thing I like about him is his speech is not angry. His speech is not in your face. His speech is soft and caring. And even when you're disagreeing with him, I've seen him in debates with people who want to put the 10 Commandments in classrooms in Texas. Like there's a whole group of them. And he said, and he will speak to you, even though he disagrees with you, he will say, and he's also a preacher, by the way,
Yeah.
He also, talks about God and what he sees as God and what Jesus would have wanted and all this. Like everything about what he says is what people should be hearing right now. And I just saw another content creator on TikTok last night talk about, you remember when Obama ran and how nobody knew who he was?
Yep.
He says, that's going to be the kind of person we need to come in and clean things up for all of us, not just for, a certain aspect of society, which is what we have right now. We have whoever's in there at the time, they only care about certain things, which is really what I think did in the, the Democrats took the bait on the whole trans issue because like Tallarico says, it's only 1% of the population. Why are we fighting over 1% of the population? And I just seriously was in awe of what this guy said. And so he starts talking, what's his name? Tom Powell Jr.
Okay.
I don't know if you're on TikTok, but check him out. He's good. He says he was talking about, you remember how Obama came in and he was a nobody. We really didn't know who he was, but he just flew to the top. He made it into the Senate, made a speech at the Democratic National Convention that when everybody gave everybody tingles and all of a sudden we knew who he was. And so he says, here's a guy. And then he goes to another clip and it's the clip of what I just told you is James Tallarico talking about we're angry at the wrong 1%, the same clip I'd already seen. Yeah. And I go, oh my God, this guy is going to go viral. And he may even bypass who I think the front runner right now is Gavin Newsom. I'm not crazy about that. I like Gavin Newsom, don't get me wrong. But again, the current Democrats that are in the national picture and the current Republicans in the national picture, none of them are on the right side of the people.
Yeah.
None of them.
100%.
And if they could listen to James Tallarico, boy, James, if anybody sees this, I hope you contact me because I love you. I even sent that clip to a friend of mine, the gal who cuts my hair. I just like the way he speaks to people. He doesn't treat you like you're an idiot, which a lot of current politicians in the mainstream right now, that's what they do. It's all about killing.
Can I add some context to that?
Sure.
Because, so I ran for office years ago.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And one of the things that I learned when I ran for office is that's what they coach you to do. So the reason you see all of these politicians treating people like they're idiots and sort of sounding like they're condescending is because they say that's what wins votes. So therefore, all of the politicians are sort of in lockstep because that's the approach and the official trained, like as a politician, this is how you need to be. And it just like,
all that does is escalate, though. I mean, I'm okay, former educator here.
yeah,
If I have two kids in my office trying to mediate with them because they're angry with each other, do I just let them rail on each other? No. What am I going to do to heal this so we can move on? I've got to remain calm. I've got to get them to talk about, use their iMessages and all that stuff. What they're selling people to think they can win with that is not what the people want. And I'll be honest with you, it irritates the hell out of me because I sit and watch politics from this angle. Now, I know, I'll be honest with you, I'm a liberal Democrat. And it's not because I love the liberal Democrats in Congress or in the legislature or in the state houses. It's not because of that. Because what I like about Democrats is their core ideals are about the people.
yeah.
And you can't tell me that the GOP is for the people because their actions tell me different. The Democrats, even though they have nasty language, they still are on the side of for the people. You have to really kind of ferret out that, but you can. But what they're doing is they're not reaching over to the people on the other side, which this James Talarico, I think, really can.
And I also think there's a difference between local and national politics on that one.
Definitely.
Too, right?
Yeah.
So like with the local sort of Democratic Party, and I do really feel they still do that.
Yeah.
Right? Because they still make laws
Yes.
and rules that actually help the working
Right.
people.
I think Joe Biden even did it. Yeah.
At the same time, he got up there and actually killed the frickin' strike on the railroad.
Yeah.
So like when they turn their backs on the unions and they like got the union to support Trump.
Right.
Like that says something about national politics.
But it also, if I may push back a little bit on that, Joe Biden has a bigger task than worrying about the railroad union. He's got to worry about getting stuff to where it needs to be. And to have the railroad union go on strike, I'm not trying to defend Joe Biden for all of that, but I can totally see, I think now the local politicians should be all about the unions. The Congress should be all about the unions. Joe Biden's got to think, because he is the commander in chief at the time, you've got to think about bigger picture.
Kind of.
No,
right?
You do.
But here's where I would like kind of push back just a little bit, right? If you look at what they were trying to bargain for, like 2 days off, like that's where I go, what are we doing here?
Right.
Like you're telling a person that they cannot have 2 days off. Like that, like what kind of a message are we signaling to the working class? Because like if it was just about wages or if it was just about, I can get behind that. But when you have an entity like the BNSF and all of those people, and you look at how they treat their union workers, like that should just stop like today.
Right.
And that's where I just,
and like, that's different than what I'm talking about Joe Biden's.
100%.
Okay. I agree with you on all of that.
Yeah.
But we're going to see very soon with the tariffs what disrupting the supply chain will do. And that's all Joe Biden was concerned about by ending that. Yeah. It wasn't that he didn't want it's not that Joe Biden, the person, didn't want railroad workers to have 2 days off. Joe Biden, the president, had to make sure the supply chain kept moving. And I know it is splitting hairs, but that's not for Joe Biden to worry about the 2 days off. What's for Joe Biden's to worry about is making sure the supply chain stays moving. And it's up to the union to work with their employers to, number one, because I'll guarantee you the reason why they don't have 2 days off, they don't have enough people working. So if you don't have enough people working, that means your job sucks because people don't want to go into it.
Yep.
And so what they need to do is improve their working conditions, and they can do that by saying, you know, you're going to get these benefits, you're going to get 2 days off. The unions should be, the employers should be saying, we want more people to come work for the railroad so that we can send more shipping and make more money. Like I swear, CEOs and the big money executives at the top don't get that. All they care about is the stock market.
That's it.
And this is what we talked about before. But I guarantee you, Joe Biden was not saying, I'm not going to give. That was not what he was saying in his head when he did. If you think about from
100%.
from his perspective, he says, I have to keep the supply chain moving. And like I said, with the tariffs, we're going to see what happens when there's a huge disruption in the supply chain, because it's going to happen. In fact, isn't today the day that all the tariffs were supposed to come down? I know he's extended some of them. Trump has extended some of them. Another 90 days. Like, to me, it's a joke. And the stock market's tanking today. So you would think the big money executives would say, whoa, dude, we wanted you to be in there to help us. Help us with this. I don't know. It's bottom line is we can't look at this is just me, my perspective. We can't look at the little things like the 2 days off. I know it doesn't seem like a little thing to the people that are having to work every day in a job that sucks. But when you talk about not being able to get certain let's just use toilet paper, not being able to get toilet paper from the factory to the places that don't have a factory nearby, what are you going to do? I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, Congress has had the power
Mm-hmm.
the whole time to sort of dictate.
But they don't want the current Congress wants to keep everything, wants to keep Trump happy. That's bottom line. That's the current leaders in Congress, the current ruling party in Congress wants to keep Trump happy. And they're just going to let things go. There are some that are starting to make waves with the whole Epstein thing, but I don't want to get into that. But that's a whole other thing. But bottom line is I feel like in general right now I feel like we're at a tipping point. I know I've been saying that for the last 10 years, but I think a Trump term 2 is going to be that tipping point for people. And I know personally, people who voted for Trump, very angry with him over the tariffs and the promises not being kept and all that. But the thing is, we tried to tell them, dude, the guy lies. Like, he lies as if it's just instinctual. He lies. You pretty much can say anything that comes out of his mouth when he's talking. 99% of it is a lie or an obfuscation or a misinterpretation or a what's the word they use? My mind's gone blank.
Like
a pivot or just twisting everything to fit his narrative.
Yeah.
And there are still a lot of people that no matter, they could say, hey, Trump loves this guy. Oh, we love him too. I'm just putting random figure out there. Then said guy makes Trump angry. Trump doesn't like him. Now everybody, all of his real supporters say, okay, we don't like him either. There's still that, probably about 33% of the population of the United States is still in that, because they haven't wrapped their mind around yet that they're in a cult. I don't want to get into that either, but they have not wrapped their mind. And if I wanted a cult, I'd want a cult of D.D. Meier readers.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'm down with that cult, people.
Yeah.
I'm down with, but I just want to live my life. I'm retired now. I don't want Medicare to go away because I don't quite qualify for it yet. A little fearful of that. Hopefully I can be grandfathered in because I'm so close. There are things that I worry about because, I talk to my mom and dad, they're on Medicare and they're like, oh, their premiums are like $100 something a month. I said, Mom, mine's almost $700 a month for my premium. And that's just a retirement version of my OEBB insurance. What?
So once you get to a certain, like I've always been a firm believer in healthcare for all.
Yeah. Oh, Medicare for all.
Yeah.
I'm there. Yeah.
And one of the things that I get frustrated with when you talk to people is they believe that narrative out there, like how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're already paying for it.
Exactly.
Like you have their deductible every year. You have your insurance company that you pay. They're only paying 80% if you have a major surgery. You're already paying.
Do you want to hear my thing? This is my new mantra. Our current healthcare, the way it is right now, even people on Medicare, because most of them are on Medicare Advantage because in the Bush administration, they successfully privatized a lot of Medicare. Don't get me going down that road. But we're currently in a state, and I have been for years, even when my employer was paying for most of my insurance, but they didn't pay for all of it.
Yeah.
They only, this is what we're going to pay. So you go get what you want. And if it fits in that, and it never does unless you go Kaiser, right? So I said, and I think about it right now for me, I currently pay for my healthcare 3 times. I pay a premium.
Yep.
I have a high deductible plan. So I pay a deductible that takes me because I'm diabetic and I have a very expensive diabetic medication, Ozempic, that is super expensive. So that eats up my deductible almost with my first order of the year after my new year. And then you have to pay your copay or coinsurance. You pay for your health care 3 times for every time you use it. And for me, it's not as bad. It's only twice because I do meet that deductible quick. But how many people there's some people that never meet their deductible in a year. Every time they go to the doctor, they're paying a copay or they're paying deductible. They don't even get to the part where the insurance kicks in. To me, it's stupid, if I may just use a blunt word, that people aren't outraged by this. They're more afraid of us becoming socialist than they are of bringing our healthcare costs down. Because if we went Medicare for all, everybody's healthcare would come down. You
100%.
probably wouldn't pay as much in taxes as you're paying for your healthcare right now.
Yeah. It's always surprising to me that people can't wrap their heads around that concept.
Well, there are people that are, quite honestly, they're selfish.
Yeah.
They look at it in terms of, why am I paying for my taxes for other people, for Joe Schmo over here to get insurance when he refuses to work? And you know what? There are people like that, but it's not the majority of people out there. So, and by the way, you're one catastrophic illness away from bankruptcy
100%.
because of the way our healthcare system is right now. And you don't know if you're going to get a catastrophic illness, get in a bad car accident. There's many ways that a person can go from, why am I paying for everybody else's healthcare, to, man, I need healthcare right now. And it is so close. And I used to listen to talk radio years ago when I drive into work, drive home. There was a guy that called in from Canada to talk to whoever was, I can't remember the name of the guy that ran it was on KPOJ, and they're now sports station or something else now. They're not liberal talk radio anymore. But he called in from Canada and he says, listen, I have to tell you. He says, I pay about the same for my taxes, pay more for my taxes as what I would be paying in insurance premiums in the United States right now. The difference is I'm paying more in taxes and everybody's covered. So the healthcare prices don't go up because they don't have to adjust for people who are uninsured that they have to take care of. And this is the part that people don't understand. The people that say things like, man, why am I paying for somebody else's healthcare? Well, you're not. You're paying to keep everybody's healthcare costs low. And also, you can go in and get treatment and either small copay or nothing. Your prescriptions are going to be cheaper because you have national health care in Canada, and your prescriptions are going to be cheaper because your country says we don't want to pay those high American prices for prescriptions. So we're going to negotiate with drug makers to make prescriptions cheaper so we can still maintain everything under this small, what is equivalent for most people's private health insurance in the United States. That's what you're going to be paying in taxes, but you don't have to worry about it. The other thing that people forget, if we would just do national health care, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to go uber liberal right now, but I'm going to give you a plus. Okay. You wouldn't have to have a rider on your auto insurance for medical. You wouldn't have to have a rider on your homeowner's insurance for injury. You wouldn't have to have, you would have more companies coming and building factories in the United States because they don't have to provide their employees with health insurance at these extreme costs. Why do you think they're going to Canada? Why do you think they're going to other places that have the dreaded socialized medicine? You wouldn't have those things. And I told somebody that years ago. I said, why wouldn't you want this? These are the pluses. And the guys, I think it was a guy or gal, I don't even remember, it was so long ago. He says, why aren't the politicians saying that?
Because they don't.
They're
in the pocket of the insurance companies.
And the pharmaceutical companies and anything related to healthcare, because it's not just pharmaceutical. How about medical, what do they call it? Equipment.
Yeah.
Like you saw my walker that had knee replacement surgery, had to get a walker. Those people are making bank. I had to pay cash out of pocket. I could have used my HSA probably, but I just paid cash for it. And I keep it just in case. I keep all my health supplies because I paid for them.
Yeah.
But their medical equipment. There's so many private ambulance services. There are so many people making money off of what we're paying in health insurance premiums that if we just went, national, those things would all be covered by the single payer, which Medicare for All would be single payer, single parent health insurance in the United States. It would be, I don't think people realize what a boon it would be to our economy to have that. Yes, our taxes will be higher, but we're already paying premiums.
Yeah, we're already paying that. And
we're already paying we pay for our healthcare 3 times.
And I'll throw 2 other things to sort of go piggyback on what you're talking about there, because I think it's also important. Because right now you have for-profit entities determining what care you can receive.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And the other argument is, you're going to wait so long for appointments and all this stuff. It's already like that.
It's already. I know that.
I have an appointment at a doctor that I couldn't see until November. So you can't tell me that, and I have the state insurance, right? So I have the premium
right.
state
You have the good
insurance.
Stuff.
I have the good insurance. Yet I still struggle to find care.
Right.
Because the profit people are saying, no, we don't want to pay for this, so we're just going to say, and that should not be, healthcare should not be privatized or profitable.
Agreed.
It's just so strange.
It is. We are the only industrialized nation that does not have national health care or a Medicare for All type of single payer, Medicare for All, whatever you want to call it. We're the only industrialized country that doesn't have it. And we're also the most expensive when it comes to our health care. And that's not because we're paying high taxes. That's because the profits are going to anybody involved with health care.
Yeah.
Like I just said, I ticked off all those things. It is, it's beyond me. I know that if you had a Republican sitting here with us right now, somebody who's more on the right, they would come up with an argument. But
it depends, right?
Yeah.
So, and I say that because I just had a conversation with a Republican in poverty.
Okay.
And I think more people on both sides of the political aisle, outside of the politicians, are for healthcare for all.
Right.
I am also finding that people on both sides of the spectrum actually believe things that are outside of what you would think is your traditional Republican platform.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the piece that's missing too, is I think everybody wants it. But if you listen to the voices that have all of the bandwidth and the space,
the talking heads.
Yeah. They're the ones that say, oh, no, we don't want this. We don't want that. Where you bought and paid for. But
There's a whole a video of Ronald Reagan back when he was just an actor before he became a politician, denouncing the Medicare Act when they were coming up with it, calling it socialist. And but when they think of socialism, they think of places like at the time the Soviet Union was socialist, but that's different than that's communism socialism versus democratic socialism, which is what I'm for. I'm not for the communists. That I get tired of being called a commie because my beliefs are we should take care of everybody. And by the way, if we took care of everybody, you want to talk about something expensive? Poverty. Poverty is one of the most expensive things we have as a country. I don't care if you say that, well, I don't want to be paying for them because they don't want to work. Well, you don't know. They might already be working. They have food stamps because they can't make enough in their job because, let's not even get going on this. The minimum wage hasn't raised in 20 years. You have them living in poverty because nobody pays a living wage, and everything, especially after COVID, went up in cost to a degree where I can't believe the cost of rent right now. A two-bedroom a two-bedroom apartment in Salem costs twice as much as what I pay in mortgage on this house.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
In Salem, Kaiser now are like $2,000 a month.
And I have a 3-bedroom, 1,400 square foot house. I'm paying less in mortgage and insurance and mortgage. Let's see, mortgage, insurance, and what's my other? Taxes. Yeah. I pay less for those combined every month than what it costs to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in Salem. So when you look at what's expensive right now, to everyone is poverty. Yeah. And I'm one of those people that will not shop at Walmart because of that, because all they do is, the wealthiest family, one of the wealthiest families in the United States, pay a pittance to their employees. They make their schedules so that they can't get benefits because they don't work enough hours. They're one of the biggest contributors to the roles of SNAP and Medicaid and all those things. And what people don't understand is that if Walmart just paid a living wage and took care of their employees, like Costco does, for example, Costco pays a living wage. Costco gives great benefits. Those two entities are both doing very well. In fact, Costco's one. I dabble in the stock market, but Costco's been one of the stocks that I've been most pleased. In fact, it's probably the best performing stock I've had the last 10 years that I've had it. And when you look at something like better than Amazon, and Amazon's another one. I mean, I hate to say it, but I shop at Amazon because it's just more convenient. But
I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah, but I won't walk into a Walmart because I know they are choosing not to do it. I think Amazon's just way too big. They're not as big. Walmart's not as big as Amazon, so they could actually do something about it. But Jeff Bezos doesn't need $1 trillion. He doesn't need to fly into space. He doesn't need to think about how many people could eat off of I refuse to watch those blast off things for that reason.
One of the things that really upset me more than anything else is when that whole Katy Perry thing, because I'm like, how much money could you have donated to a charity for that life change? Right. You could have changed 150 people's lives. Right. Instead, you chose to spend $1 million.
Not that Katy Perry maybe doesn't already do that, but you're right. Yeah. I'm not saying, but they tend, the wealthy people, most of them tend to do charitable giving, but there are some that don't, or create charities. I'm going to do a little, who create charities to take money for their own purposes. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. But I'm just sitting here wanting to be a writer and live my life in retirement. And what I see going on out there for people that don't have it as well as I do. I mean, I'm really fortunate to have been born when I was born because I was able to get through public school, public university, public college, public university for my master's. I worked in a private school for 11 years, which was a great experience. It was in Los Angeles. I mean, I got to live in LA for 11 years, but I worked in public schools much longer than I worked in that private school. And I have seen firsthand what poverty does to kids being able to learn, for kids being able to just make it to school. What it does to their parents who become desperate and give up and start using drugs and drinking and all the stuff that you see that tends to happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen for people with money, but it tends to happen more for people that are in poverty. That becomes very expensive for all of us. And
a lot of that's medication. Right?
Absolutely.
Because you have people on poverty who can't afford the doctors, so they go self-medication route. And that leads to all kinds of things. And then the other piece on poverty, too, that I get frustrated because you hear it all the time. Like, if you're able-bodied, you can have this. Well, that implies that there are 10 living wage paying jobs for 10 people who need them. Yeah. And in reality, there's only 3. And 7 people are going to be subject to poverty because they just didn't have the right smile. They didn't have the right words. They have a disability. And so really, the most vulnerable population doesn't have a shot.
Right.
And when people say things like, "Oh, everybody has equal opportunity," that's just not.
It's not.
True.
They have. Everybody has opportunity. It's not equal.
Right.
I heard somebody say recently that, for example, Barron Trump has a much better chance to scale his wealth than the average kid living in poverty right now.
Yeah.
And so, but that's not the way some people see it. They see it as, because they've been told that the people that are in poverty are just lazy. Yeah. The people that are in poverty just don't care. The people that are in they don't know. They don't know. They have been told something by certain media entities that these people are the ones we don't, why should we help them? These same people claim to be pro-life. Yeah. They're not pro-life. They're pro-birth. And I've been saying that for 20 years. I've been saying that 20 years. I'm just now hearing it out there in the podosphere, through videos and things like that, where people are just now starting to say it. I was saying it 20 years ago. Yeah. And you can ask any of my friends. I was saying that 20 years ago. Yeah.
Well, in prime example, right? And I hate to use myself as an example, but I have this podcast, right? This podcast doesn't generate any money.
Not right.
Right? Yeah. I don't know if it ever will. I don't really care. Yet I pay somebody, right, out of my salary that I work for the state. Like, can I afford it? I don't know if I can or not, but I pay somebody to help me with my podcast.
Right.
Because with my disability, I can't do certain things.
Right.
And I am more than happy to continue paying that stipend as long as I can afford it. And I don't understand why, that's not the approach for some people. Right. You know what I mean? You have the means, you have the ability. The only reason you're giving to charity is for that tax deduction.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Instead of really saying I'm so much better off. I'm in a good place. What can I do to contribute to the community at large to help lift people up? Because the more people we can lift out of poverty, the better this country is all across the board.
Yeah.
And anybody that says, "Oh, we can't afford that," look at how much we spend on military.
Yeah, it's costing. Well, but it's like I said, poverty costs us probably greater than
100%
than what we realize.
Yeah.
And as long as we let poverty run rampant, we're going to be paying the price. And the prime example is Reagan's signed on a law that, if somebody comes into the ER, you cannot turn them away. You have to treat them, and you'll bill Medicaid. I'm going okay, so what are people going to do that can't afford health insurance? They get sick, they're going to go to the ER. What happens then is that when they go to the ER, that drives up the cost for everybody else, not to mention, if you have somebody critical in an ambulance going there with a heart attack, you have people waiting in the lobby that are sick. You don't want that person that's being treated for a heart attack to be exposed to the germ that this person brought in because they're sick and they can't afford a regular doctor to be able to, or, even I know they had I don't know if the same rule applies for urgent care as for ERs.
Doesn't.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I know that because when I had my rollover accident, I went to a couple of
urgent cares,
and they wouldn't treat me.
Yeah, but for somebody, I'm talking about for somebody without insurance who's sick. Yeah. I'm talking about that.
Yeah.
if they could go to urgent care and have, if they have to. My question is, what I don't know is that same law that Reagan signed that says ER has to treat them, does it apply to urgent care for people that are sick?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. I'd have to look that up.
Literally, I was just there to try and get a referral, right?
Yeah.
And they were basically saying, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We can't do that.
I've actually had that happen to me too. When I walked into the urgent care and they said, well, you got to go to the ER because they're the ones. And I'm going like, okay, so I walk over to the ER. It's fine. But yeah, I'm just thinking that's for something where.
But like that's the case, right? Because if you would have been helpful, if you would have been helped in urgent care, it would have been like $300.
Way cheaper. Yeah.
You go over to the emergency room. Now it's like $3,000 just because you walked to the.
I mean, if you have to have, and Salem Hospital is a perfect example. They have people working there who their literal job is to take people in wheelchairs to the radiology.
Yeah.
For whatever scans, x-rays, whatever. That's their little job. They're paying that person, giving them benefits at an expense, and all they do is wheel these people around all day long. That's all they do.
Yeah.
If we had a healthcare system where people didn't have to go to the ER, then that job might be elsewhere where people could get treatment or whatever ahead of having a catastrophic situation where they're so dire they need to go to the ER. It's just, to me, I don't think people understand that all they do is look at it from their own perspective is how does it affect me and what is it going to cost me rather than what is it going to save me?
Yeah. Because
the narrative has always been those people, it's the others. And I even, I recently posted on, I think Blue Sky or something. I can't remember, but I recently posted about that very thing, about where, we as a society, the only looking at me is costing us.
100%.
Costing us more.
Especially when if you take a step back and you look at life right now on this planet, there is literally nothing that you can do that doesn't rely on somebody else to have done something to get you there. Your home was built by somebody else. Your everything was built by other people.
Yeah.
And yet we have this individualistic view in society where everybody has but it's like, that's not real.
Well,
we rely on each other so much that it's like, why can't we focus some energy lifting people?
It's the whole point of government is to make sure everybody's taken care of. That is their goal, but that's not how people view government these days. They view it in terms of what can I get from it?
Yeah.
And we were starting to go that direction. I think even back in Clinton era, Clinton did more to eliminate the debt, pay down on the debt than any president in history.
Yeah. That
debt has been built up over, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, going back to the beginning of the Union. And then what happens is, well, no, you did that because you taxed the wealthy people. We're going to lower their taxes. Bush comes in, lowers taxes. All of a sudden now we're running deficits again in the trillions now. We're in the trillions now. And yes, we've had things come along that needed attention. We had 9/11, needed attention. We had COVID, needed attention. Whereas if everybody paid a fair share, and a fair share doesn't mean the same.
100%.
That's the thing. I think a progressive tax rate always works best. There are regressive taxes like sales taxes, for example, that don't do anything. In fact, they harm poor people more than they help people who pay high taxes elsewhere, like payroll taxes or whatever. So what happens when you tax that way, all you're doing is perpetuating poverty again and again and again. And until we get out of that mindset and start saying, you know what, if we could just lift up these people out of poverty and you don't have to necessarily go to the middle class. And poverty, there's a lower class below middle class. There's lower middle. I mean, if you look in quintiles, 20%, the 5 different quintiles.
Yeah.
The highest taxes right now, personally, right now, and you have to talk not just about payroll taxes or things like that, but sales taxes, and not just here in Oregon because we don't have sales tax, but if you just look at sales taxes, local taxes, now we've got tariffs, which is basically a tax. When you look at that, the people living in poverty are paying more of their income in taxes than Elon Musk. Let's just put it that way. And who's the most subsidized billionaire, soon to be trillionaire right now? Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He's got government contracts in the billions. And I would love to see more laws and more spending bills that actually helped the lower end and the lower middle achieve middle. I'm probably considered lower middle now that I'm retired, but I'm comfortable because I took care. I didn't start young. I wish I would have. Yeah. Saving for retirement, because I knew even though I worked in a PERS job that I would be getting a PERS pension, that I needed to supplement that because it was not going to be enough to fully live on. I'm now eligible and getting Social Security, so I'm kind of fortunate in that I'm living comfortably right now, not making near as much as what I was making when I was working, but I can live comfortably now. And I had saved correctly. People living in poverty can't do that. They're going to work. They're going to work their entire lives until they die.
Yeah.
And that is not productive. They're not going to be productive when they're over 60. They're not going to be as, what's the right word? They're not going to be as good at what they do when they're that age. I mean, you just get to the point, and you, like me, I got burned out of what I was doing.
Yeah.
I got absolutely burned out. I could have probably worked another 5 years if I wasn't so burned out. Like I liked my job. I loved what I do. I just didn't like all of the hoops I had to jump through to be able to do what I loved to do. And I think there are a lot of jobs like that, that I could have been way more productive had a lot of the other bullshit, for lack of a better word, wasn't a part of what I did. Make sense?
It does. Totally.
And that bullshit is the stuff that burned me out, not what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that when people realize that, I think that's why when you look at employers across the land, across the United States or anywhere really, the employers who get the most out of their employees are the ones that take the best care of them.
100%. And
I don't think employers look at their employees as someone they need to take care of, but they absolutely do, because if they did, they would find their bottom lines going up, the workers' bottom lines would go up, and everybody would be happy, and you wouldn't have people quitting.
Yeah. Because, at the end of the day, I don't think we should be a country where people have to choose to live on the streets.
Yeah.
I know too many people that have 3 jobs but are still living in their car.
Right.
Because they can't find a place to live.
Exactly. They can't afford it.
Yeah.
And first, last security, you can't even get in the door.
And a credit score.
Yeah.
No criminal history, and no pets, and all of these other rules that, if you, it's kind of out of hand.
And it becomes perpetuating, because you get someone who lived their whole life and all of a sudden find themselves in this situation. They may not have had any mental problems before, but now all of a sudden they're realizing that the world is closing in on them, and they become, mental illness is not something you're necessarily born with. I'm not saying all mental illness isn't that way, but mental illness is not something you're necessarily born with. It's something that could develop. And imagine living in your car and working 3 jobs and not being able to afford a place to live.
Yeah.
And having people look at you as someone who isn't that person. They look at you as...
They call you lazy.
They call you lazy. They call you all kinds of names. They call you drug addicts. They call you... They will say mental illness, but the mental illness is not something that put them there, in my opinion. I think the mental illness is something that comes when they get there and they realize they can't get out.
Yeah, you're trying to live in your car and not be depressed and have anxiety, right?
Yeah. As a school counselor, I had an entire family
Yeah.
that lived in a pickup.
Yeah.
4 people living in a pickup. And the kid that I had was in middle school, and they had a younger sibling in elementary school. And there are people that also don't know how to come out of that. Like the elementary school counselor said, we need to help this family. Can we get them a job in our kitchen? Not realizing working in the kitchen is not going to give you enough money to get a home. They would still be living in their car.
Yeah.
But they tried.
Yeah.
And they got the dad a job in the kitchen, and he came for 3 days and realized it was costing him more money to work than it was for him to just be in his car and going around picking up his kids from school every day. That's the problem. When you realize that even if you do work, you can't get what you need, why would you work?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, that it can't help bring them out of poverty. But when you have all the other challenges like healthcare, if everybody had healthcare, they probably, and by the way, more employers would probably pay you more. If there was a national healthcare plan, they'd pay you more because they don't have to pay for your health insurance for those that provide it.
And there's a case study to be done if anybody wants to do it.
Yeah.
Because I think of the veterans, right?
Right.
And so as a disabled veteran, I have service-connected disability. So basically, I have universal basic income for the rest of my life.
Nice. Yeah.
Right? And so to anybody who says, well, what would that look like? What could that do? Look at the success rate of veterans who are able to start businesses, who are able to, like all of these things that are able to do, because it takes the pressure of, okay, I have this money, at least rent's taken care of. And then everything else, like, okay, I can move forward.
Right.
And healthcare's taken care of.
Lift myself out of this. Yeah.
So many veterans, because they were injured, are lifted out of poverty. But yet nobody wants to take a look at that example as something that could be repeatable and brought into
Well, and the veterans that aren't disabled, that didn't suffer disability, might struggle and end up on the street.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Yeah, and so it's about, again, we circle back to, if we would just take care of the people on the bottom instead of the people on the top. Remember James Tallarico? I told you, he says we're angry at the wrong 1%. We have found ourselves in this situation where absolutely we are fighting over these 1% down here, and they're looking down at us and laughing because they said we did that, and look at us get richer and richer and richer, rather than, and I don't care. The other thing that drives me nuts is like, I don't care that, Elon Musk may give, $1 million, $10 million, $1 billion to charity. I don't care. Most people aren't going to know they got that money. Whereas if I go to North Salem High School and say, hey, to one of the counselors, because I work there, and I said, I want to buy, for kids that can't afford it, I want to buy them a yearbook. So I'll buy 3 yearbooks for kids that can't afford it. And I'll let the counselors choose who those kids are deserving and whatnot.
Yeah.
I bet you I get more bang for my $100 or whatever that I spend doing that than Elon Musk gets. He'll get a nice tax break. I don't get a tax break for what I do. I do it out of the goodness of my heart. And I think we're missing that now. And the more money some people get, not all people, but some people get, because I think Bill Gates clearly is an example of how to do it right. Mark Cuban, there are a lot of people that know how to do it right, how to be wealthy and still give back. And then there are others that say, I'm going to give back, but I want that tax break where I don't have to pay any taxes then. And that person at the bottom is paying way more than I am. So, yeah.
Well, we've been at this
we have been, and we got off the topic of books, but if anybody out there wants
how do people find your book?
Okay, all of my books are on Amazon. So, and I think, and I do have an Amazon author page, so you can find my books that way. And it's d.d.meier, Meier, is my pen name. I would also, if you want to get a signed copy, I'll sell you a $10 signed copy and mail it to you. I want to get my books out there to read. And we just talked about Amazon taking a big chunk. They do, but I can do it for $10 wherever you went and bought it on Amazon. You're paying $12.99 or whatever it is that they set the price. And then I hardly see any of that. So, but you can get them on Amazon. If you're a Kindle, they're all available on Kindle. And I have enjoyed being here to talk about my books. We didn't talk much about them, but I don't want to tell the stories about what they're about. I'd rather that people read them.
I think people are more inclined to buy books from people they can resonate with and relate with.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you having this conversation with me, because I think people get a chance to know you as an author.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to help in the long run too.
I appreciate that. And you can, if you want, if you have people able to email you after they view a podcast and they want to buy my book, have them email you and then forward it to me. I'll give you my email. Forward it to me.
Perfect. And what's your website?
It's d.d.meier. No, wait. Sorry, back up. It's d.d.meier, M-E-I-E-R. .com. It's I got my own. I don't sell them on there, but you can at least go on there and see, I have a little bio on there. My mom's an author, so she's even included in my bio because she was the one that sort of inspired me to do what I did in retirement, what she did in retirement 20 years ago. So I've enjoyed talking to you about all the kinds of things we've talked about. I told Stephanie, your friend, I told her, I said, I can hold my own with just about any subject. So don't talk to me about NASCAR, but I can hold my own. But yeah, I appreciate your chance, the chance to get to talk about my books. And I'm happy if somebody wants a signed copy, I'll even personalize it if you want. I just want to get my books out there for people to read. Just understand, it's self-published. You're going to find mistakes. You're like with this book, you're going to find, like I said, the formatting errors, but it's still readable. Yeah. So, and this is a fun one. This is military. Like, I don't know if you noticed the cover, but
military boots.
It is based on a real military and CIA program that I made a story about, where this program, they're doing training and it goes off the rails is basically what happens. And it's actually, I'm going to give you a signed copy before you leave and you can read it and you could tell your people about, hey, this is a good book. But this is one that just came to me when I learned about the program by watching a show called Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah. They talked about the program and I go, ooh, that would make a good book. I mean, this is how I get inspired. So that one is kind of a fun read in that you're in this program and they're doing it and they're getting good at it. And then all of a sudden it goes sideways. So
that's the military way. From experience, like that's happened so many times.
And it's post 9/11. Yeah. So if you want, that's where it's set, is kind of in post 9/11, where they are trying to get these guys that got captured, trying to get them back. That's all I'm going to say.
You got it.
Yeah, I'll leave you definitely with a copy of that book.
You got it.
Yeah.
And I'll close the podcast the way I always close it. People, be kind.
Please, yes.
We share the same air on this planet. We share the same space. And life is just better if you're kind to people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.